right, to unpack this now, let's speak to Spencer Critchley, who is a Democratic strategist and managing partner of Boots Road. He joins me live now from California. Thank you so much for being with us on the program. Now, the timing of this decision, it's quite interesting given that Zelensky has been asking for the green light for months now. So why now, and how can we expect it to change the dynamics of the war?
Well, with the caveat that I am not a military expert, I would say it does seem to be related to several factors. One of them being the addition of North Korean troops to the equation. And another one, of course, the imminent arrival of Donald Trump in the White House, which threatens to change everything. And I think that President Biden has been very clear, not just during his administration, but throughout his career, that he stands for liberal democracy. And where we find ourselves in history right now is at yet another crucial point where we have forces opposed to democracy and forces who defend democracy in opposition to each other. And the United States finds itself in this position where it's not just Ukraine that is being attacked by Russia, as awful as that attack has been, but it's a threat to the rest of Europe and really the rest of the democratic world. And I would have to imagine that President Biden is doing whatever he can to try to defend the ramparts, really, against the assault on democracy.
Right. Could this tactic be seen as escalation through de-escalation and witness the two sides come to the negotiating table, especially as you mentioned, near Trump's inauguration, given that he said that he's adamant on ending the war?
I think the concept of a negotiating table depends on the assumption that you have partners who are willing to negotiate in good faith. And that assumption is completely groundless when it comes to somebody like Vladimir Putin, who's not just shown that he can't be trusted to tell the truth, but who bases his power on an all-out assault on the concept of truth. I think this is something that many people don't fully appreciate. Of course, in the world of diplomacy, people have to bend the truth. Sometimes people end up lying. We can all point to the record of history of every nation going back on its word. But Russia represents a particularly unique case where the entire concept of factual and evidence-based truth, and Putin has said this himself, is seen as an invasive import from the West. And he instead seems to exist in a reality in which he gets to declare what's true from one day to the next and from one moment to the next, and celebrates his assaults on the truth as a sign of his own power and invites his people to celebrate along with him. So the idea of negotiating with Russia is something that nobody should pin their hopes on.
Right. I mean, Trump is foreseen in doing that. He said that he's Putin's very good friend, and there's definitely going to be a new chapter of U.S.-Russia relations moving forward under a Trump administration. What can we expect?
Unfortunately, one of the most frightening things about Donald Trump is the extent to which he admires Vladimir Putin and the shallowness of Trump's analysis of the situation, which really seems to come down to nothing more than Trump's own psychological needs. He's notorious for not actually understanding what's going on internationally or domestically. When he was in office the first time, he refused to read his morning briefings. I almost hesitate to say that, but of course it's not news to the international community. We had an American president who had no interest in reading through the presidential daily brief, which is, of course, the critical daily intelligence briefing for the President of the United States, which is critical not just for the United States, but critical for the rest of the world, given the power of the United States and the enormous responsibility that comes with that power. You know, I'm the first to recognize the United States is far from perfect, but I think that there are very few other countries in the world that the rest of the world would want to trust with this kind of power. And the most alarming thing, or one of the most alarming things about the approaching Trump presidency, is that in many ways he's more sympathetic to Putin's anti-democracy position than he is to the American position of being pro-democracy.
Interesting. Spencer Critchley, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that analysis.
Very welcome.